Welcome back to the second half hour of the program. A good friend of the program, Gregg Russell, pharmacist, certified clinical nutritionist from Fort Wayne Custom RX, sits in with us this morning. Good to see you again.
Hi, Lee. Great to be here.
We are going to start today talking about CBD, but as always, if you have a question about something that's in your medicine chest, it's fair game. You can put it to Gregg. He's been around this game a long time. He knows what's going on. Tell me your experiences with CBD. It seems like there was a big wave that hit, and now the buzz seems to be dying down. Are you seeing that in your pharmacy?
No, we're still seeing quite a bit of customer interest at this point.
What are people coming to you and seeking it for? What are they trying to solve?
Sure. Well, I would say the number one problem that people come in for is pain. Probably pain, second would be sleep, and third would be anxiety.
Okay,
those are the big three. Let's
take those apart and dive deep into pain. What can I expect this to do for me? What have you seen? What are patients telling you?
Okay, so first I've got to put a big disclaimer out here. The FDA has not approved CBD. So we can't really say it's got an official indication. And there's a whole bunch of controversy on that, and we'd be happy to address that here as we talk through the show. But what I personally see is I've seen patients actually have some benefit from pain. And a part of that is how is the theory of how that works? You want to kind of know how that works?
I do, yes.
Okay. So what we know is our body has a system. It's called the endocannabinoid system. And the reason it's called the endocannabinoid system is researchers back in the 80s, when they were looking at what marijuana was doing in the body, how does it affect, why does it help people relax, why does it cause hunger, munchies, why does it do what it does? When they were looking at that, they found these receptors, and the receptors were in the brain, and they called these cannabinoid receptors because cannabis or marijuana would fit these receptors and stimulate them. Over the course of the years, they found out that our body has its own endogenous cannabis system that they called the endocannabinoid system, endo standing for inside our bodies. Okay? And there was two major players in that system. One was called a chemical called anandamide that our body makes. Another one called 2-arachidyl glycerol, or 2-AG, because who wants to say that word every day, right?
Easy for you to say, right?
So easy to say, yes. And this acts as a modulator in our bodies. Well, they found that different plant chemicals called phytocannabinoids, which CBD is one of them, and of course cannabis is one of them because it comes from plant. Those would have an effect on these two chemicals that our body makes, anandamide and 2-AG. And basically what happens is 2-AG and anandamide are kind of breaks in some of the systems. And what made it very difficult to discover this, and this is fairly new science, is because they come and they go so quickly, they're hard to measure. So what happens is that as the body has to have an effect, it has two enzymes that break these down and basically block them. And what these phytocannabinoids, CBD and THC, do is they stop this breakdown of our own internal production of endocannabinoids. So it's a break on the brake.
Got it.
Kind of think about it. So in other words, it's an acceleration.
Right, yeah.
Right, on the receptors.
So if you have any doubts at all about whether Gregg has put time into understanding CBD, I think you just got a great explanation there. You're talking here with somebody who knows this product quite well and has a lot of personal experience from his patients in the pharmacy. Heather Starr is going to check in here with us. She has a text message that's come in for you, Gregg.
Yes. Does it register on drug screen?
Oh, wow. This is a great question, and there's been a lot of controversy on this also. So I'm going to try to describe what a drug screen does. A drug screen is going to be used to determine whether or not you have illegal chemicals in your body. So quite often patients that tend to get drug screened are patients that are going to be in a public role where they may drive a vehicle, truck drivers, teachers.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right,
all right? So the screens are just what they are. They screen for these chemicals. And they're screening for basically THC, which is the active ingredient in marijuana. Now, CBD and THC, this is they work on different receptors in the body, so they have different effects. And so think of it as, again, this key and this lock theory. The keys are similar, but they're not exactly the same. So the other day I came home and I put my key for my house upside down in the lock, and it did not open it up. And that's the way THC and CBD are. They're almost like mirror images of each other's, but they don't open each other's receptors very efficiently. So what happens is, because they're so chemically similar, the testing can falsely identify the CBD as THC. So I think one of the myths out there is I'm taking a product that has zero THC in it, or CBD with no THC, that will not show up on a drug screening test. However, it can if the test is not specific enough to determine whether it's THC or CBD. And I get that from the actual IU School of Medicine, the organic chemistry department.
So if I'm not using marijuana but test positive because of CBD, do I go back and say, your test is not specific enough, it's not fair, you need to do something different?
Well, I think that's where all the legal questions are going at, and I don't know where that's all going to go. I think there's a lot of confusion even amongst prescribers. Certainly, if I work for a school corporation, or human resource department, how do I interact with those people? And I tell, in fact, we just had this situation came up yesterday, as a matter of fact, where a lady who had been taking OxyContin, 3 doses of Ambien, and antidepressant, because she started taking CBD, she was able to dramatically cut all 3 of those doses. She's no longer on the antidepressant. She had cut her Ambien down by 1/3, and Ambien's a drug used for sleep, and she was only down to one pain pill. No, she was taking tramadol, at bedtime, from 3 a day to 1 a day. But she tested positive on the drug screen. She works for a school corporation. So this is a quagmire for her, because on one hand, the drug is having a major impact on her health. She feels so much better, but on the other hand, she is going to have an issue potentially with her employer.
Oh my gosh. I'm impressed that she had that much benefit. So she dropped her tramadol and got off Ambien just with CBD.
Just with CBD.
So how much is the big question, and what should I be taking? And there are so many different variables here. There's full spectrum, and there's a lot more to talk about with CBD. And we're going to do that as we come back on the other half of this commercial break.
Welcome back to HealthCall Live. If you've got a question, you don't have to give blood to get the answer. Just call us at 447-1190.
And that is exactly what Mark did. He has a question for Gregg Russell from Fort Wayne Custom RX. And Mark, you are up. What's your question for Gregg?
Yes, hi, Greg. Quick question, and maybe you were going to discuss this. In regards to the labeling issues, the claims, the full spectrum, 30 milligrams, 100 milligrams, and then we find when we try them, we get different responses, and then we learn they've done research and labs have tested some of these claims in the retail level of the CBD oil, and it has very little in it. It's actually diluted. So do you have any experience, or are you aware of what they call infused with using olive oil? So instead of relying on a bottle of CBD oil, you make it yourself by purchasing the flower that has 0.03% of THC, so it would be legal as of next year. It'd be hemp in Indiana. And then you actually heat the flower with like olive oil to extract the CBD, and then you would use this yourself to actually control what you're using. I mean, it's more reliable, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, you bring in a couple of really great points, Mark. Thanks for calling. These are great questions and great observations. So let's first talk a little bit about purity. It is a well-known fact that many of the products out on the market are substandard. Well-known fact. CBD has to be extracted and grown very carefully. So it's grown in the best kind of climate that tobacco is grown in. So kind of think of it as southern Texas, Kentucky, places that would grow hemp are going to be very similar to climates in tobacco, which has been a little bit of a problem for Indiana. We're starting to get a little bit north. However, we do have, I know of at least one place that's trying to get hemp certified through the state of Indiana. Now, that's part of the Farm Bill Act about the legalization of CBD. Part of it was it had to be grown in partnership with a state entity and certified. So what you want to make sure is you're getting hemp products or CBD products that are certified by the state. In Indiana, it has to contain less than 0.3 THC in it, and it has to be grown a certain way. It has to have a QR code so the patient or the customer can track the certificate of analysis, which tells you how it's made, which I don't believe most people would know how to read anyway, but I do. So fortunately, I can go through and look at those products. But back to your question, there are some brands that are endorsed by some of the different pharmaceutical associations that we do carry. We do have some brands, for example, that we have doctors specifically. These are the brands that they want, and so we carry those brands specific. There has been adulteration in products. A lot of products were known to contain over 0.3% THC or even other chemicals. In the Midwest, back about a year and a half ago, one of my pharmacy journals quoted that in the Midwest there was contaminated CBD products with a rat poison, and this actually ended up with people coming to the emergency room, and that was a very serious issue because it caused bleeding disorders. So back to the purity, I think, you need to be careful where you're buying your products. I would certainly not ever recommend anybody buy it off the internet.
Yeah, and to that point, I found a study that Leafly conducted. That's a marijuana magazine, but they took a look at CBD products, and they checked to find out what type of, what percentage, and 51% of products that claim to deliver CBD were within the 20% range of their labeled dose. So what that means is 49% of the products they tested did not fall within 20% of the labeled dose. So to your point, you don't really know what you're buying if you're not buying a quality product. And I know from talking with you previously, you've done a lot of very careful research, and the products on your shelves are very well tracked, and you consider them to be pharmaceutical grade.
I do. And so we do bring a product out of Kentucky called Ananda, from Ananda. And one of the reasons we bring that one, that was one of the first state-certified products. It's no surprise that the Speaker of the House or the Speaker of the Senate, Mitch McConnell, was a big proponent for hemp production in Kentucky, and so they have considered one of the strictest states monitoring programs. So as far as speaking back to the home infusion product, I know people do that. I don't know how effective it is.
Yeah, I was going to get to that because you are a compounding pharmacy. You guys are well-versed and well-skilled at all the chemistry and the math that has to go into calculating dosages and ingredients and all that kind of stuff. And I know from watching you work in your pharmacy that I just don't think you're going to get close to that at home.
Well, one thing's for sure, it is illegal for us to compound it, so we're not going to compound it. We have to buy the state-endorsed products. So again, it comes right back down to it. We are kind of in the infancy of the science, and we can't say that this drug or this product has been endorsed. What we can talk about is a little bit about the safety on it. There is a commercial product called Epidiolex, which is the actually FDA-approved product of CBD. It is approved for what we call an orphan drug status, and it's actually used for a non-responsive seizure type patient, the rare seizure types, usually in infants and young children. That these are people having seizures multiple times a day, maybe hundreds of times a day. Okay, so we know Epidiolex is dosed at 10 to 20 milligrams per kilogram. So if it was a child, we're talking about somewhere around 1,000 milligrams a day.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah. So, we're talking about dosing in the 2.5 to 40 milligrams possibly up to 100 milligrams a day.
So I wanted to mention here, and I'm bad on the host for not getting this done. Gregg is serious about helping you find the right product that's going to make a difference for you, and that means not only the quality and the purity, but at the right dose. And so they're offering a $5 discount if you go to Fort Wayne Custom RX and use the purchase code WOWO1123. Just tell them you heard about it here on WOWO, and you'll receive $5 off their very high quality CBD products, because you want people to get a good product and get a good result, and then understand for themselves, does this work for me?
Right.
So what about this full spectrum thing? There's terpenes and other stuff that comes along with CBD. Why do I need to look for full spectrum?
Okay, so that's called the entourage effect. And the thought is, again, CBD CBD by itself works on one specific receptor. The thought is that there are hundreds of cannabinoids that exist in nature, and that a full spectrum uses the whole extraction method, pulls more than just CBD. Now, the prescription product is only CBD, but the thought is if we use this mixture, and that's one reason why you see some differences in some of the quality of the products, because one product may have more terpenes in it or less terpenes in it. The science doesn't yet say one product or one formulation is better than another. There's a lot of patients there's a lot of companies making it one way versus another way, and we don't want to get into that too deep today.
So what about the form I take it in? There's gummies, there's candy, there's oil that you put underneath your tongue. Does it seem to matter what's most effective?
I think they all seem to be equally effective. I think they're used a little bit differently, and depending on the patient. I'm not a big fan, for example, of vaping CBD. One of the things we worry about is impurities, and if people are vaping CBD, are they getting impurities down into the lungs? We've already looked at what's happened with vaping in general, and so I'm not a fan of that at all. We don't carry those type of products. The oral capsules or fixed dose might be a little easier for somebody that just needs to be able to take something or has a little coordination issue. The liquid drops tend to get put under your tongue. They're nice because we can kind of start with low dosing and work it up slowly and kind of find where you need to do, because these products are a little bit expensive, and so we don't want somebody to take too much.
But I don't feel anything immediately. It's not like I'm going to get a buzz after I try this product.
That's right.
So you have to kind of experiment yourself, right?
You really do. The American College of Apothecaries, which is a pharmacy organization, talks about starting with about a 3 milligram dose, which we have, let's say a 10 milligram bottle per mil. We would give a quarter of a mil, which would be 2.5 milligrams, and basically adjusting it up by that dose every few days until we get to maybe a 36 to 40 milligram dosage range. And we recommend doing that actually fairly rapidly over the course of a couple weeks. And if you're not feeling an effect, then that product's probably not going to have as much of an effect. However, saying that, we haven't done the studies on the higher doses, and there's a thought that maybe anxiety might require a higher dose or pain might require a higher dose. We just don't know.
Does it matter what time of the day? How long is this effect going to be in my body?
Well, I have found personally from feedback from patients that smaller doses more frequently seem to be more effective than one large dose once a day.
Have you seen any downside at all to this product?
The two things we see is drowsiness, which occurs occasionally, and then we just dose it at bedtime, or diarrhea is another one that we have seen because of some of the effects on the GI tract. The biggest issue, I'll just say the last minute plug here, what a lot of people forget is they're not only taking CBD, they're taking other prescription drugs. And I am very concerned that there could be potential drug interaction. So please talk to your pharmacist before you start using CBD.
And my personal endorsement goes to Fort Wayne Custom RX and his team. They are there to help you and do want to talk with you about these things. So please do visit them on DuPont Road, Fort Wayne Custom RX. And if you choose to try CBD products, use the promo code WOWO1123 at checkout, and you will save $5, because Gregg wants you to make sure that you are getting a quality product so you know whether or not CBD is a good fit for you and your health. That's all for today. We will see you next week on HealthCall Live. And, of course, check out the recordings online at healthcall.live. You can watch a playback of this interview and many others, and we'll see you next week.